when the film is called The Coming UFO Invasion, because we believe it's soon, but the subtitle is Exposing the Dragon's Dark Secrets. Chuck Missler, the late Chuck Missler, when I asked him, what about the hybrids? Without hesitation, he said, Satan is outnumbered 2-1, he's building an army.
Victorious. In other words, they were fighting God's plan for renewal of sinful human beings with their own plan, which is create slaves, create an army, a dark army, and go forth against God. And as strange as it sounds, this continues to this very day. And we talk about these things in the Bible all the time. Principalities, powers, rulers of darkness. LA, they really exist.
They exist, they're here, they have an agenda, and their hubris, they think that somehow they can overturn the work of the cross, which is why the end game in Armageddon, the hybrids will be there in that dragon's army and that satanic army. She's abducted again, but she doesn't know it, but she's been taken. She's been abducted again. And she realizes that something is wrong. She wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning. She goes to the emergency room, they do an ultrasound, no heartbeat. They do a DNC, no fetal tissue. And the doctor looks at her and goes, are you sure you were pregnant? And she says this in the film, and she looks right at the camera and she goes, you can call my doctor, I know I was pregnant. And this happens to her 2 other times for a total of 3 hybrids. And I'm not going to give away the farm.
And my question, and it's a question with purpose, who are these people that are taking you out of your bed at night? If you don't know the Lord Jesus Christ, if you're unsaved, if you're vulnerable, you can be taken and used, by the way, for very many different things by these creatures. Who are they? What's their background? What are they doing now?
Fallen angels, the Greys, the little guys with the big heads, in my opinion, and other researchers have said the same thing. The late David Flynn also posited that these little Greys are actually biological avatars, okay, to house the bodies of the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. The Nephilim are the progeny of fallen angels and the women of earth. We just read it in the book of Enoch, creating this hybrid known as the Nephilim. Luke tells us, Jesus tells us in Luke, that it'll be like the days of Noah when the Son of Man returns. We're here because hybrids are being created. The dark, nefarious, fallen angels are taking genetic material and creating a hybrid being. The Greys are the biological suits, the avatars, that the demons, which are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, can inhabit. And I realize that sounds really strange, but this is based on decades and decades of research and talking to people who aren't Christians, telling us that they're aboard the ships and they see the Greys stacked up like suits, like stacks of chairs. Why would they do that? Because they're biological avatars, in my opinion. The demons inhabit it. But there are other entities on these ships.
They're preparing for something.
Exactly.
And what exactly is that? Where do we read about it in the Bible?
This is the Battle of Armageddon.
And since I started this, since I lost my ability to record, I've learned something from what has become a dear brother, a friend in the Lord that I met at MUFON. And with what I'm going to show you, part of me has been holding back because I'm going, man, this is just going to sound so weird, so bizarre, that once I say this, nobody in the world is going to believe it. Everybody's going to stop listening, and we'll shut our ministry down, and me and Sweetie Pie will get in our RV and just go. Nobody will take me seriously anymore. But God had to show me something. And once he did, now I'm ready. So before the devil's like flies drops down through the ceiling, Michael throwing him out of heaven and all, and lands on top of my head, let's get going with it. Matthew chapter 24, verse 30. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all of the tribes of the earth mourn. Why are they mourning? Because they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And all the tribes are going, uh-oh. That Hoggard guy and all those other Christians, they were right. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. And we know that Mark says it, he completes the picture of it. Matthew's only giving you a partial picture. Mark is completing the picture, because Mark says that he shall send his angels, and they shall gather together his elect from one end of heaven to the other, and from one end of the earth to the other. So we got all four bases covered on this thing. Okay, one end of heaven to the other, one end of earth to the other. That's four bases as far as I'm concerned. All right? Now, and it just kind of took me when I read these two verses and thought about it in relation to Matthew 24. Because the question in my mind is, when Jesus gathers together those elect from one end of heaven to the other, what heaven is he referring to? Is it referring to the first heaven, the sky above us, the second heaven, the realm of what they call outer space, and now that the James Webb telescope
But when they decide to land and kidnap people, like the guy from Mirasol, we can start to worry, because they did it. It was just a small light like this in the sky that bothered Villas Boas for about 2 weeks. Even in cities like this, small lights in the sky can be dangerous to humans. This is amazing to see how many cases of UFOs can be seen in middle of the cities, big or small cities. We have registered a lot in Brazil. Also, as you well know, from the late 80s and 70s, this light in the sky is starting a new era in abduction phenomena, the kidnapping of people while sleeping. Up to that time, it was very common kidnapping of people entirely. See, I'm being taken entirely. They take me, my body, my soul, and everything. But from the late 70s, starting and early 80s, they started kidnap people in big cities like that while they were sleeping in their rooms, in apartments, building like that. But they didn't kidnap the body. They started taking the soul, or whatever you can call it.
It landed there, it crashed. What happened?
See that? You can see the side of the road over here on the hill over there.
Yeah.
Like I got the old road. That road wasn't there. It came around like that and hit the dirt right there, and he made a big groove all the way around like it was turning. And it came down, and this right here was like a bunch of sand, an arroyo, and a bunch of sand, and it just buried itself right in here, and it stood up this way. That's where the hole, you can see the hole right here on the side, on the top of it. But this is where it stopped. The mesquite right there, there were trees. I mean, this 70 years, there were trees. We used to hide right there. The horses were behind there. And we used to hide right there where the military used to be working over here on that object. That the trailer was loaded right over here where they picked it up from there. And the creatures were, see, he was leaning upright like that. When it landed, it buried part of it on the sand, and the hole was right over here. That's how come we could see from up above. They were running, these little 4 guys were running back and forth.
How were they?
How were they?
Yeah.
Like a fire ant, hormiga, like that, except that gray. And they had long arms, 4 fingers, no ears, and the eyes were, what, teardrop? And it looked like they were naked, but it looked like they had a uniform, or I don't know what. It was a smooth, But I noticed the arms, they were longer than ours. And I noticed that the 4 fingers only. And it looked like they were naked, but
get into this factor. You said there's some fluid coming out of the ET or
Correct.
the being itself.
That's what he said.
Was there any color to the?
It was a darker type color.
Was there any color? Like, was it red?
Don't know. He just said a darker fluid came out of the body as they made the incision with the scalpel. And one other thing,
Some people actually believe that these beings are like biological, but then they are also like they're cyborgish,
Yes,
and
I've
they
heard
could
that
be
as well.
robotic as well. Some kind of oil.
yeah, I've heard that
it's
as well.
Interesting.
Yep.
That's pretty interesting. Some people, when they say, I got picked up by the alien, they mean it. And this lady is in Chile. This was given to me by my buddy, my buddy Sanchez. And you can see the marks here. These are gigantic, huge handprints that are literally have a caustic effect. And the doctor said, I have no idea what would cause this. I have no idea. It's a caustic material that was on the hands of whatever it was that picked her up.
Hi, Daryl.
Already ready. Yes, sir.
We appreciate you coming over here. I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Where do you think these beings are coming from?
Great question. I didn't have time. I wanted to get into that tonight, but it's just too much. In my opinion, I'm going to give you the fast food version. I will prove it, in my opinion, or not be able to prove it, one of the two, this year. Because we do have some DNA from an alleged one of these beings and so on, and we have other evidence as well, fluorescence evidence, which kind of gives us a fingerprint of these entities. In my opinion, when you look at the aliens all lined up, 7 of them, the Nordic, the Bigfoot, and the little guy, and his doctor, and all of those, reptile, all of them, ask yourself a real simple question. If I were from another planet, or wherever in the universe, and I wanted to make a praying mantis type being 7 foot tall, where would I get some praying mantis DNA? Probably planet Earth. If I were going to do that with a reptile, where would I get probably the best look? All of it comes from here. What I'm trying to tell people, and of course a lot of people don't hear this, I'm an investigator. I don't care where it comes from. I don't have a dog in this race. My point is that, in my opinion, from what we found after 38 years of work on this stuff, is that these entities are made, hatched, cloned, manufactured. They're transgenics is what they really are. Out there, they're made out there, but the DNA came from here. I mean, the Hopi and the Navajo and the Zuni all say the same thing. These are the ant people. That's the little guys that in the ancient carvings on the walls, they actually have the little antennas sticking off their head. You say, why don't they have them today? Because the models you're looking at today, those back then were like the Model T, and now they have a Lexus. My opinion, that DNA comes from here. Someone else is using them to interact with human beings, pawning them off, in my opinion, as aliens, whatever they, I don't know what they are, but they appear to be a transgenic manufacturer or maker clone of something from DNA from this world. That's my best short answer to you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
and it looked like they were naked, but
So in witches' covens, they have a ritual called the blade and the chalice. Chalices represent the female. They're used to, again, this is from the Complete Idiot's Guide, for all the idiots who want to become Wiccans. They are used to drink wine from during ritual. Sound familiar? A chalice is also used in doing the Great Rite, a symbolic unification of the male and female in which an athame, which is a sword or a large knife, a blade, is lowered into a chalice. What does that signify? Think about it, but not too long. Many witches own more than one. You always seem to find a great one that you just must have. Keep an extra inexpensive one on hand in case someone in ritual doesn't have one. In other words, keep an extra one around because this ritual is so important. Whoever doesn't practice it won't get some kind of great magic spirit on them. Now, what is that great rite ritual in relation to Scripture? I believe it's related to Daniel chapter 2 and that fourth kingdom where they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. In Masonry, I probably need to teach this again. It's been years since I've talked about Masonry. But in Masonry, remember, the earth, what's down here, notice the magician tarot card. He's got a hand pointing down to the earth and a hand pointing up toward the heaven. He has what looks like a sideways 8 over his head, and it literally is. It's called the infinity symbol. And he has a sword and a chalice and a pentagram on his table. Okay? Oh, did you see the blade that this witch is holding? You see the DNA on it? Dun, dun, dun! Yeah! I believe that from their perspective, it represents the fourth kingdom and the coming of the fourth kingdom, where they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. Because Manly Hall and Albert Pike, they all the Masons said the same thing. The earth represents the female, the passive. The heavens represent the masculine, the active principle. Yang and yin, negative and positive, black and white, coupling together to mingle themselves directly into the seed of men. first. I can't say that the rapture happens first, because the falling away happens first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he is God, sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Notice I have underlined, starting in verse 4, God, 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 God. How many times? There's your fourth kingdom. That's the reason why it's there. 4 times. And in verse 4, I would say. It is the basis of the fourth kingdom. The iron mixed with miry clay, the 5 and the 5 joining together, the Masonic handshakes, whatever version they are. Okay? You got 5 and 5 joining together. Iron mixed with miry clay, heaven and earth joined together. That's what that means. Every Masonic symbol means the exact same thing. Key going into a lock. Well, you get that. Handshakes, the way they cross their legs, everything in the Masonic temple shows forth the joining of heaven and earth, beginning a new age for mankind, a transformation of mankind, and it produces something. The letter G in the square and the compass. God. Notice all the capitalizations here. God, 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 God. He is God, sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God. By the way, just as that can happen, I think evil beasts from the other realm can be seen. So he's written several books. Strange Encounters, Phantoms and Monsters. Winged Cryptids is one of the new books he's got out. Humanoids, Monsters, and Anomalous Creatures Case Book. So look at here, August 6, 2017, 2 concert goers see a bat-like flying humanoid with glowing red eyes in Grant Park following the Chicago Lollapalooza. I don't doubt that one bit. You got all these rock and roll artists playing this music, and all of a sudden spirits start manifesting everywhere. Duh. August 9th, a couple are startled by a large winged being with bright red eyes flying over Lakeshore Drive. August 10th, a city employee sees a giant owl flying off Chicago's Ohio Street. And the list goes on. And this is an image of what they're seeing. It looks like the Mothman. Here is a witness rendering of the Batman that they saw. Here is a supposed picture. I can't prove it. Chicago's one of the murder capitals of the world, and supposedly these beings are like harbingers because of death. And remember, in Isaiah 13, Isaiah 34, and other things that we see about dragons, they dwell in wilderness places. They dwell in the valley of the shadow of death. Is Chicago a death city? Are you kidding me? Here's some more witness drawings. There was even one of the Aztec or Mayan or Incan tribes identified the bat deity with their god Xotzelaha Chamalcan, the god of fire. Popol Vuh, a Mayan sacred book, identifies Xotzeliha as not a god, but a cavern, the house of bats. And here's their renderings of this bat-like humanoid god. And yes, there is even a mole man. There are dog men. Dire wolves have been seen. Skinwalker Ranch had one. There's a video of a dire wolf on YouTube. Huge black, and I mean talking like 6 feet tall black wolf. Okay? Yes, I believe that. I believe people are, and they're going to see more. So when it says that they're going to give their idols to the moles and to the bats.
I thought Lou made a very solid point, and I'm embarrassed I hadn't thought of it before, which is this is, among other things, whatever these objects are, a potentially very grave threat to nation states. So where was the intelligence community in warning about this and learning more about it? Where were they?
Well, that has to be answered, absolutely. I mean, we are under siege. It's like there's a war of nerves going on, and if this was drones belonging to a foreign adversary, there would be an absolute outcry. And yet, the situation we're in, that we don't know what these things are, and they might even be extraterrestrial, that's worse. So I agree with Luis Elizondo on this. This is a potential catastrophic failure of intelligence. And if it happened because skeptical bureaucrats were just saying to themselves, it can't be, therefore it isn't, then there must be a reckoning.
So you say, and that is such a great point and nicely put, but you described it as a siege. Give our viewers who don't follow this topic closely a sense of the magnitude of data coming in about these encounters.
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely extraordinary. And every day it seems like new information drops, things that the public and the media weren't told. So, for example, former Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe just threw into the conversation the other day the fact that the satellite imagery of all this and some of the speeds being reported seem to blow the theory about foreign drones out of the water. We must be told what's going on here, and we should think of this upcoming report to Congress as an intelligence assessment of the phenomenon itself, and one that's long overdue.
There are a lot of these. This is not like, you know, some drunk guy in a rural road in northern New Hampshire saw something weird. I mean, this is the U.S. military regularly, very often recording these objects.
Yes, absolutely. It's pilots, it's radar operators, it's satellite data, it's measurement and signature intelligence. There's such a lot of information now, so much that the US Navy has instructions for its pilots on what to do if they encounter these things. Now, I think as we go into May, in the run-up to this report going to Congress, there's going to be a lot of things going on behind the scenes, a lot of politicking, jockeying for position, factions trying to kind of have their say on this. I anticipate more leaks of information, photos, videos, documents. There's a lot more to come here.
Nick Pope has been on this for so long. I appreciate your steadfast commitment to answering obvious questions. You know, what is this? Thank you.
For some, it is still a mystery. Thousands of cows mutilated in New Mexico and other states.
One investigator did determine that there was really nothing strange or unusual. But what did the FBI have to say about that?